Hey, what's up guys, Adam here, and as you can tell from the title below, today we're going to be taking a look at Dave Ramsey's 7 steps to financial freedom. And as you can also tell, we're going to be looking at those steps from a UK perspective. Now, for those of you that don't know, Dave Ramsey is a big time entrepreneur over in the US. He actually started off as a young real estate investor. However, in his early days, he actually ran into a lot of financial ruin when the housing bubble burst. But since that point, he's been able to pick himself up. He started his own company known as Ramsey Solutions, which is a radio show that he's been running now for just over 20 years. And its main focus is on financial freedom and how to attack consumer debt. Now, during that time, he's also come out with several books as well. For example, Smart Money, Smart Kids. He's also come out with The Complete Guide to Money, as well as The Complete Money Maker, which is probably his most top performing book. He's also come out with what's known as Financial Peace University, which takes people through a long process of trying to get out of debt, and the key factor within that process is going to be what we're going to be talking about today, which is the 7 steps to financial freedom. So without any further ado, let's get right into those steps. So step number 1 on Dave Ramsey's plan is to come up with a $1,000 emergency fund. Now this one we can easily translate into UK pounds. So of course we can say save up a £1,000 emergency fund. Now this purpose of this fund is, as the name suggests, it's an emergency fund. So in case, for example, your fridge or your cooker stops working, or for example, you have a gas leak or a liquid leak somewhere within your home, or for whatever reason you're not going to be getting paid for this month, either you've lost your job or you have to take a pay cut. That is the purpose of the emergency fund. It's not for you to go on a spending spree. It's not for you to buy a brand new car or a new pair of trainers. No, it's simply there as a cushion to cover you in a serious emergency. So step number 2 on Dave Ramsey's plan is to pay off all consumer debt, excluding your mortgage, using the snowball principle. And the snowball principle basically means you start off with your smallest debt and work your way up to your largest debt. So here is where we're going to make the very first differentiation. Now, when Dave Ramsey talks about the step 2 plan, which is to pay down all consumer debt, including that debt, he also adds in your student loans. Now, here in the UK, our student loan system or student finance system works very different than how it works in the US. So for example, here in the UK, our student finance system covers the cost of your course as well as your student maintenance, and you also get a student grant which you actually do not have to pay back, which is very good, but you will have to pay back at least a portion of your student maintenance as well as the amount paid for the overall course. Now, as you realize, I said amount paid back, and that is because the debt itself will write off 30 years after you complete your course or you graduate, or it will also write off when you hit the age of 50. Whereas in the US, there's very, very few circumstances where you'll be able to completely write off student loan debt. There's some examples where it does happen, but it is really difficult to do. It's also not bankruptable at all. So if you've got that debt attached to your name, the minute you finish your course, you need to start making repayments to that student loan debt in the US. So bringing it back to the UK now, the way the UK works when it comes to paying back student loan debt is that you only start making payments when you make over on your salary £26,000. If you do not make over that threshold, you simply don't make any payments towards the amount. Only when you get over that £26,000 a year threshold will you start making contributions towards your student loan. And also, the more you make, the more you pay. So you don't actually have a fixed amount that you have to pay back like a monthly direct debit. Only when you're consistently making over that £26,000 threshold or more, depending on how much your salary is, will depend on the percentage that you actually contribute to your debt repayment. And for that reason, it's kind of more like a graduate tax rather than a student debt. It technically is still debt, but the way in which you pay it back is more kind of in the realm of how you would pay a tax, given on how much you make per month, rather than just having a fixed amount that you need to repay each month. So for that reason, I think it will make a lot more sense to not include these student loan payments here in the UK as part of your consumer debt, mainly because given the salary that you're going to be making over £26,000, the rate or the percentage that you pay of your salary is really, really small. to the point where it's not going to be a back-breaking financial ever-growing burden like it would be in the US, because that amount will just keep growing and growing and growing with interest. Whereas here in the UK, the contribution is that small that any interest rate that does take place is really, really marginal. So moving on now to step 3 in Dave Ramsey's plan. Remember that emergency fund that we started in step 1, the £1,000 emergency fund? Yeah, we're going to be coming back to that now, and that is now going to form part of our fully funded emergency fund. So when it comes to the 3 to 6 month fully emergency fund, this is to actually cover your primary expenses, things like your household bills, your mortgage, water bill, gas bill, electric bill, car insurance. Everything in that primary umbrella for your expenses needs to be covered within this fund. So you can pretty much write off things like, your Netflix account or your gym membership. Is mainly just to cover your primary expenses, things for your day-to-day living. Now, usually the rule of thumb is that if you're self-employed, for example, it's probably more safer to have a 6-month emergency fund. Whereas if you're working for an employer, it's probably better. You can probably work down a bit because you have a bit more insurance when it comes to your income, such as things like redundancy pay, etc. You can probably work closer towards the 3-month emergency fund mark. But anywhere between that 3-month to 6-month emergency fund rate is where you pretty much need to be. Now, step 4 on Dave Ramsey's plan is investing 15% into your retirement fund. Now, when it comes to retirement here in the UK, or as we call it, pension age, it's really important that you put funds away for your retirement when you can no longer work and you have something there to live on for the rest of your life. Now, one thing that I keep hearing time and time again that you really, really should not be doing is relying on the government to give you your state pension. So here in the UK, when you hit the retirement age of, I think it's 67 now, you automatically will get a state pension from the government. However, I would not rely on this because there's a lot of talk about them looking to completely get rid of that by 2035. Don't quote me on it, but it looks like it might be in the works. So you want to have something there in place when you get to retirement age. Now, in the US, they talk a lot about things like your 401k and matching your 401k contribution and Roth IRAs. So we don't really have those plans over here in the UK, but we do have things that are fairly similar. For example, we have a workplace pension. Most companies will offer you a pension scheme where you can put a percentage of your take-home pay that will move into your pension pot, and it will go in before tax, and you only then pay tax when you actually draw down from that pot when you reach retirement age. So it all goes in pre-tax and it'll keep accumulating. It goes into various funds and stocks, and you can either, some companies will allow you to actually choose what funds your pension pot goes into, so you're able to have control over that as well. Now, if you work for yourself or you run your own business, I would highly recommend that you set up a private pension or a SIP through a company such as Vanguard or Hargreaves Lansdown, where again you take some of your income and you pay it into your private pension. As I said before, you don't want to rely on the state to pay you for your pension when you reach retirement age. You want to have something there which you have control over and you definitely know you'll get when you reach retirement age. Now, alongside your retirement plan, I would also recommend, if you're here in the UK, to set up a stocks ISA, whether that be through Hargreaves Lansdown, AJ Bell, Trading 212, eToro, Freetrade. There's many out there. Again, I'll link them down in the description down below. But I'd recommend that you set up a stocks ISA, because the great thing about a stocks ISA is that when you contribute, you can contribute up to £20,000 a year. I'll be talking more about these on my channel, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But I'd recommend that you actually set up a stocks ISA and make contributions into that ISA as well, because the great thing about that is that it will accumulate alongside your retirement pot, and you can then draw down from that pot completely tax-free. Everything that goes into that stocks ISA will be completely tax-free. You won't pay any tax on the capital gains that you make in the ISA. So it's a really, really great way to have a tax-free wrapper on top of your future investments. So the next step in Dave Ramsey's plan is step 4B. Now, step 4B is where you start to make contributions to your home deposit if you don't already own a home. Now, Dave is definitely a person that's behind home ownership, really believes in it, and he wants you to own a home in the most efficient way possible. Now, here in the UK, our actual deposit amount, or the average amount that people tend to aim towards, is around about 10 to 15%. Now, here we're currently in a bit of difficult times, especially with, you know, the pandemic and lockdowns taking place. So having that 15% now more than ever is going to be incredibly crucial. You can get mortgage products below that rate, though it is a lot more difficult to find them. So having that 10 to 15 or even more, having that bracket of deposit there is a lot better to have, and it'll give you the most mortgage products that are available for your circumstances. So moving on now to step number 5. Now step number 5 is an interesting one because this one is about making contributions to your child's university fund. Now, as I mentioned before, university and student loan works a lot differently here in the UK than it does in the US. So for this, I wouldn't recommend trying to save up a pot to pay down or pay in full the entire university course amount. I would actually make contributions more to your child's living amount. For example, you know, their food shopping, maybe the accommodation bills or the accommodation rent, for example. I would actually put some money aside for that, especially if you've got a incredibly high salary, because I believe if you've got a high salary, the higher your salary is, the less maintenance and grant money you'd be entitled to. So I would instead of trying to mimic like what they would do in the US and save for the full fund or the full amount for the university course, I would instead have a small pot aside to cover for things like their room furniture, their food, utensils, things of that nature. So now moving on to step number 6. Now step number 6 is to pay off your home early. Now you have to kind of be careful with this one because here in the UK, I believe it might be the case in the US as well. If you pay off your home too early, you can actually be penalized because a mortgage is there to be used as a long-term product. It's there to be paid off, you know, within 15, 20, 25 years. It's not like bridging finance where you buy a property and pay it off, you know, in a short amount of time. It's there to be used as a long-term product along with the interest. So I would definitely encourage people to pay their home off early, maybe within 15 years, but you have to make sure you actually check your contract and check what's in the fine print of your mortgage details to make sure you would be allowed to pay off your home early. But that's what he recommends in his 7-step plan, is to, by the time you get to step 6, aim to pay off your home early, whether that be making overpayments or large sum payments at the end of the year, is to try and get your home paid off for as soon as possible. So the final step in Dave Ramsey's plan is step 7, which is to give like no one else. So Dave Ramsey always likes to say, live like no one else so you can really live like no one else. That's not trying to copy or keep up with the Joneses, but live below your means, live in the amount that you can live on, and then from that point you can simply grow your wealth so you can live like no one else. And this is where the point now, we're at the point where we can pretty much give, and we can give generously, whether that be through charitable organizations, whether it's through religious organizations, through tithing, whatever you do to feel like a productive member of society and feel moral about yourself is to give, and give generously. Is at this point that you'll know within yourself that you have pretty much reached financial freedom. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much been my take on Dave Ramsey's plan and converting that plan to more of a UK based audience. I know there's probably quite a few people in the UK that do watch and follow Dave Ramsey, so I hope you found this very useful. And if you want to see more videos like this based in business, financial freedom, investing, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you like the video, you know what to do. Give it a big thumbs up down below. Anyway, guys, it's been Adam here. Thank you for watching. Take care. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.